Hi everybody, today's our first lesson and we're going to be making flapjacks. I forgot to say in my last video, thank you to my lovely director and editor of film here, Katie. Say hi, Katie.
Hello.
And Katie's my daughter and she's going to be catching everything on camera. Hopefully she doesn't catch anything that she shouldn't catch. And if she does, she should edit it out. So, first thing we're going to do is put on our apron, if you have an apron, and wash our hands. The flapjacks we're making today, we're going to make very basic chocolate chip flapjacks. I'll show you the basic recipe. The thing about flapjacks is, depending on what you like, you can put anything really in them. Once you have the basic recipe down. For today we're just going to do the basics. If you have a fan assisted oven, if you turn it on to about 175, if it's not fan assisted you can turn it to 190. And we'll just have that heating up while we get our ingredients together. So the first thing we're going to need is, we're going to need a full small pack of butter, okay? So we actually need, I have to look at the packet now because I can't remember, 225 grams. This is 227 grams, that's fine. And we're going to cut that up small and throw it into the saucepan. Saucepan here. So you don't have to be fussy in how you cut it up. Just throw it in there. And actually, maybe take it out of the fridge beforehand, which I forgot to do. It means it's very hard. Okay. Then we're going to add 4 tablespoons of honey. If you don't actually have a tablespoon, you can use an ordinary dessert spoon like this, and I should put 8 of those in. So 2 of those is equal to 1 tablespoon. So we're going to put 4 tablespoons of honey. Two. How many was that?
I think it was the third.
Okay. 4. With a spatula here, I'm just going to scrape out the last bit of honey, try not to get it all over myself. That's why I need an apron. And then we're going to weigh 75 grams of soft brown sugar. Oh, that's 80 sugar.
That's more than 75.
We won't fall out with 7 grams. I know I have to do this exactly because Katie's watching me. Normally I would just go, that's grand. 75 grams of soft brown sugar. That was good, wasn't it, Katie?
Pretty impressive.
So put all that in the pot together. And then put it on a lowish heat. So I'm going to put it on number 3 here on a small ring. And what you want to do is you want all that to melt in together. That will take just a couple of minutes there. So while that's melting away, we can get our scales in. And we need 300 grams of porridge. Porridge again, didn't you? The thing about flapjacks is they're really handy for your lunchbox, or if you're going on a picnic, or if you're going off out for the day and just going to bring a snack with you, or even for breakfast. You can have a flapjack and maybe a yogurt or something very healthy on the go. breakfast if you're in a hurry in the morning. I think that's 304.
Very close enough.
Casey's watching me. So, like I was saying, normally what I would do is I would add some extra stuff in. You could add sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, pine nuts, dried fruit if you like raisins or sultanas, dried apricots, cherries, anything you fancy really. But for today we're just going to do a basic mix, and then you can add to it when you're making them again, whatever you like. You could add some grated orange rind, but you can see now that's starting to melt slightly in there. You don't need to keep stirring it. Maybe just give it the odd mix just to keep it all working away. I'm going to turn it up a little bit to 4. The thing about when you're putting chocolate chips in them, this mixture will be quite warm, so you just need to leave it to cool down a little bit before you add in the chocolate chips, because otherwise what will happen is you'll just get melted chocolate throughout it, rather than having nice chunks of chocolate. And while that's melting there, we can get our tin ready. So I have a deep tin here, about 6 by 10 inches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it with a bit of baking paper so that the flapjacks won't stick to it. So we need a bit of baking paper about 2 inches wider, 2 or 3 inches wider and longer than the tin. So say that's that much. Probably a bit long, so then what we do is, to make it actually fit the tin, we take the corners, and I just made that a little bit smaller actually because it is a bit too big. So a bit off that end, and a bit off this end. And then to make it fit nicely into the corners of the tin, you go to each corner and just cut a little diagonal line for a couple of inches that way. That way. Do that in all 4 corners. And then you see it will fit nicely into the tin like that. What are we supposed to anyway?
You'll never make it as an origami artist.
That's my life ambition ruined. Washing my hand there. I was bleeding. I don't know where it went, but you know, do that. So yeah, so that will just help us fit into the corners there, and you can always just put another bit this way if you want. Just to make it fit in the corners. I'm going to have to get a plaster because otherwise it's going to be good with flapjacks. I don't even know how do I put that. Okay, so that's our tray ready. And if you want to do this, you want to have a bit of paper hanging over the edge so that when this is all cooked and ready to lift out, you'll just be able to lift it straight out of the tray. Anyway, thanks everybody, my finger's fine. I think it's my Hollywood career over, unless edit this really good, Katie, right?
Okay, I
And
will
keep it on
try.
my good side. Keep film my good side, yeah?
Sure.
Now you're on my bad side.
Oh no.
So here we are. We have our butter, sugar, and you can see that it's all starting to melt in together there. So when that's all melted in together like that, okay, you want to see it there? It's kind of like a thick gloopy syrup. You do is you just pour it over your porridge oats. Here. Make sure to scrape it all out well. Put it all. And then get a wooden spoon. And what you want to do is you want to try and make sure that all of the porridge oats are all covered. So you just keep giving a good mix around. You'll see when you mix it, you can see all the dry bits there. You want to make sure there's no dry bits. It's all nicely covered and coated with the syrupy mixture. And that's your very basic flapjack mixture there. So what we're going to do today is we're going to add some chocolate chips, because I think everybody likes chocolate chips. So we have some milk and some dark chocolate chips. But we're going to have to leave that cool a little bit, because if you add the chocolate chips in too soon while it's still quite hot, they'll just melt. And you won't have those nice little chips all the way through it. And like I was saying, normally when I'm making these, I add some pine nuts and some desiccated coconut to it, and maybe some sunflower seeds. And you can mess around and decide yourself. Chocolate and orange is quite nice, so maybe some grated orange rinds or some raisins if you like raisins. I don't know, does anybody actually really like raisins though? Does anybody really like raisins?
Kind of just a sad grape.
Isn't it? Yeah. So, well, I'm going to say raisins, but I'm not really sure that anybody really actually likes them. But if you like raisins, then you can add raisins or anything you like really. The only thing is, just make sure that you don't add so much extra stuff that that it becomes too dry. Dried fruit is fine. Maybe a tablespoon of desiccated coconut, pine nuts fine, but don't add so much coconut or anything terrible dry that it actually dries out your mixture. It's just really to add a little bit of flavour. You can see that now. It looks like all the porridge oats are well. Would you say they're well coated, Katie?
I guess so. You're the expert.
Well, apparently. We won't go into that. That looks okay, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll do is we'll leave that to cool down a little bit. And in your ingredient packs, you should have got some chocolate chips, dark and milk chocolate chips. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put half a bag. Well, I thought I was going to put half a bag of dark and half a bag of milk chocolate chips. But somebody has been eating the dark chocolate chips, and I'm not sure who. So now I just have a quarter of a bag.
No
But,
comment.
That'll do. You don't know anything about that, Katie, do you?
No. Let's move
Very
on.
suspicious there. So you can actually just keep mixing this just to help it cool down a bit. And it'll do no harm anyway to just keep coating the porridge oats. You feel it at the back of your hand, it's still quite warm. Katie, would you sing a song or something while we're waiting for this to cool down? Or,
You're the star of the show. Take it away.
but I never said sing.
Neither did I.
You sing, I'll dance. You sing a song and I'll do a little dance.
I'm actually doing a little dance currently right now behind the camera, just no one can see.
So yeah, just keep turning it around just to help cool it down. So these are going to take about, what I like to do is I like to cook them slow. So rather than put them like right at the top of the oven and the top of them ends up kind of very crispy, I like to put them down the bottom of the oven and give them about 20 minutes. So we're going to throw in, and you don't need to measure, just about half of that size bag of both dark and milk chocolate chips. And you can keep the other half of the packets because we'll be making cupcakes in a couple of weeks. We'll also be making chocolate brownies, so we could save them up if you haven't eaten them before then, and we could add them to our cupcakes or our brownies. So we'll just throw about half a bag in there. Like I said, normally I'd have half a bag of each. Just mix it very gently because you don't want them to melt, and then turn it straight into the tray. Okay, so There we go. Spread it out along the tray kind of as evenly as you can. Casey's going to do a great job now of editing this video and turning me into a superstar and editing out all my mistakes. And you can see that that mixture is still a little bit warm, so you can see, but it started to melt. That's okay. Just flatten it out on the top. I'll get my little spatula there. And when these are cooked and cooled down, what I do is I cut them into squares, and you can put them into a plastic container. And they'll keep for a week in a plastic container, and actually if you put them in the fridge they'll keep for even up to 10 days. And when I'm putting them in a plastic container, what I always do is, I'll show you now, let's put this in the oven first. So I'm going to put it in the oven here, and I'm putting it on the bottom shelf for about 20 minutes. So to store them, I store them in a plastic container like this. But what I always do, here's a little handy tip for storing biscuits or bars or anything like that. First of all, make sure they're completely cooled down. So what I do is I leave that cool down for about 20 minutes and then stick it in the fridge. And then when it's cold, I'll cut them into squares. Always put a bit of kitchen paper in the bottom of your box because it stops them going soft. Same as if you make cookies or biscuits. If you put a bit of kitchen paper in the bottom, it'll absorb any moisture that's in, that's in them, and they won't go soft. So they'll keep for a week in airtight container like that, kitchen paper in the bottom. So we have a few minutes. So while they are cooking, I'm going to show you a little trick that we'll need for our next cookery lesson. So our next cookery lesson we're going to be doing today the omelette. And one of the questions I get asked quite a lot is, if you have a non-stick pan but it's no longer non-stick and things are sticking to it, is there anything you can do? And there is a way of actually bringing your non-stick pan back to life. I'm going to show you how to do that now, so that next week when we're making our omelettes, you can actually have your pan, what they call seasoned. So it's called seasoning your pan. You can season your pan beforehand to make sure it's nice and non-stick, and it's actually really, really easy to do. So, this is our pan here. What you do is you put on the ring, and get some ordinary table salt like this. Cover the bottom from your pan. Be generous. Okay, I'll put it on quite a high heat. So I'm going to put that on 5. And what you do is you brown the salt in the pan.
Just regular rolled salt?
Regular old salt.
Oh my.
And what that does is, that clears any residue that might be, say if you burn something, not that anybody around here burns food on a pan, but if something got burnt in it, sometimes it leaves little tiny bits of residue, and that's what's making your pan. I was going to say, making your pan stick or not stick. Making everything in your pan stick to the pan, and the pan is no longer non-stick. So to get it back to being non-stick, again, cover it with salt like this. And you actually just put on a fairly high heat, and you'll see it'll start to brown. And then what we need is we need to get a bit of kitchen paper. 2 sheets of kitchen paper. Very, very careful when you're doing this because the pan does get very, very hot.
So you're doing your own stunts?
I'm actually doing stunts now, Katie, yeah. Dangerous, life-threatening stunts.
Tom Cruise, is that you?
I would have preferred Cher. I don't think she does stunts.
I don't think she does her own stunts. What stunts is she doing?
So you'll see now, it takes a couple of minutes, but it'll start to get brown. And if you actually see, do you see at the edge of the pan there? Now, there is some science behind this. Don't mind asking what the science is. You can see where it's actually starting to absorb water, and salt is actually getting damp there. Do you see there? And then some sciencey thing happens. I'm not sure what it is. Katie, you're the chemistry student.
Yeah, I didn't like chemistry.
But you can see there, see where the salt is kind of sticking to the pan. So if I was to fry an egg on that pan, where that salt is deposited, the egg would stick. All right. So it's not non-stick. You can see where the parts of the pan is where the non-stick coating is not working because the salt shouldn't stick to it.
That was very scientific.
I know. You can just keep moving it around. Funny when you're doing this and you're in a hurry, because it seems like that you turn your back and the salt is brown and you almost burnt the pan. But now because we're actually videoing this,
It's going to take 3
it's gonna
years.
take a while. Yeah. So this pan is not too bad. Like I said, you can see where it's not non-stick because the salt is sticking to it.
Look, you're contemplating life looking at the salt.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things going through my head. So anyway, I'm actually going to, you can let it go brown, and not dark brown, but you know, don't burn it. But even at that stage, you can actually, so just throw it out, okay? And then you get the kitchen paper and you rub it around like that, okay? Rub it as hard as you can. Now remember, the salt is hot, the pan is hot, so just be very, very careful. The sheets of kitchen paper, and chefs do this all the time. This is one of the little secret tricks. And like I said, I have no idea what the science is behind it. But anyway, there you go. So you wipe it out with your kitchen paper. Put the pan back on the heat. And then get some cooking oil. Any cooking oil at all, vegetable oils, it doesn't matter. Sunflower, whatever it is you use at home. And again, just coat the bottom of the pan. And then what you do is you let the oil heat up in the pan.
So it's like a good bit of oil.
Yeah, you want to make sure you coat the bottom of the pan. And my plaster's fallen off because the oil has got on it, and not only will the pan be non-sticky, my plaster's non-sticky too. So you just heat the oil gently in it like that. You can see the oil is getting hot there. I'm going to turn that ring off now, and I'm going to get a small cup just to pour the hot oil. And remember again, it's hot, so you might need help. Maybe your mum or dad might do this for you, or your older brother or sister. And you just pour off the oil. And you can actually use the oil again for cooking. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just been heated, that's all. And then you get 2 pieces of kitchen paper. After. Wipe out the pan. You're good to go. Pan should now be non-stick again. So anyway, that's just a little trick, a little tip. So, Katie, do you know what time these flapjacks went in the oven?
Oh, I have no idea.
Would you say they were about 5 minutes?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, when you put your flapjacks in the oven, set the timer on your phone for 20 minutes so you'll know exactly when they went in and you know exactly when they need to come out again. I think they're in about 5 minutes. We'll take that as a guess. So they'll be ready in 15 minutes. So 7, don't mind the time on the clock, it's wrong. 7 and 15 is 22. So 22 minutes past, they'll be ready to come out. Yeah, they're looking good. So, do you want to pause the video, Katie, and we'll
I'll have a little look at
restart.
that. I'll have a little look at that.
We'll have a little look in the oven now.
Ooh.
Jeez, I should keep the oven shut. So as you can see, Katie, I was exactly right when I guessed what time they went in at. And here you go, the clock shows at exactly 22 minutes past. They're now ready to take out. And look, they're lovely. So that's the colour you want. Nice golden brown. Okay, and I'm just going to sit on top. That's just the rack out of my grill. I'm just going to sit them there I'm going to leave them for about 2 hours to cool down, and then I'm going to put them in the fridge. Okay?
Have you ever successfully left them for 2 hours?
Yes, of course. I have great, what's the word? Control. and
Self-control.
I have great self-control. I can wait 2 hours and I can wait another hour and put them in the fridge. So I can wait 3 hours before I put them to eat them. No
Mhm.
problem. I mean, have you ever seen me eat them before they were completely cold?
No comment.
Okay, so we leave them there for about 2 hours. Then we put them in the fridge for an hour. And when you take them out, you'll be able to lift them. So that's what the extra paper there for. You'll be able to lift them straight. Don't attempt to lift them now because they'll just all fall apart. When they're completely cold, you'll be able to lift them using the corners of the paper, put them down and cut them into squares. And then when they're nice and cold and cut into squares, as I explained earlier, you're going to put them into a nice airtight container, plastic box. If you have any even old Chinese, you know, the Chinese takeaway plastic containers, so you can put them in them. Just put a bit of kitchen paper in the bottom and they'll keep for a week out in your cupboard, or up to 10 days in the fridge. Okay, so that's it.